other aspect of what's going on in the game. Anytime you have a concern, which is another way to say, hey, I'm not sure I like this, but it's reframing it as a concern rather than a rejection of the idea. And this is a common theme of the game, which is it's intended to set up a atmosphere that is as co-creative as possible.
Can I just get a little
Yeah,
background on the um,
please.
I'm just so I can make sense of of the details you're sharing. Um, so this is kind of like guided conversation, or is what's the bigger framework for um, for the purpose of this um, game board? And I mean, maybe um, so it's meant to aid in building commonality, um, and moving toward a common contract was the description, but I'm still a little unclear about like um
Purpose and how it is played and that kind of
yeah, so I guess I just am trying to I don't have any bigger framework to put
yes.
the details into.
Yes, thank you so much. That
Sure.
would have that is really good, and I wish I had thought better about how to do that. Um, Basically, this is a card game that I'm developing to be played in real life, but obviously also online. That's what we're getting ready to do.
Yeah.
And the idea is that I guess the primary mechanism I would describe is that we have a divided world we're living in. There's so many
Yeah.
aspects of people that we disagree, we don't know how to get along anymore. And perhaps the overarching concept that this game is built on is the idea that if we make a simple move, which is to say that what if commonality is that which we agree with and only that, so that you have your personal sphere, all your personal beliefs, or maybe your personal group that you're a part of that all share the same beliefs, or to some degree do so. Um, the commons would be, or any commons of a group would be only what they've all said, yes, I am all in on this. And so discovering commonality is therefore a process of having a conversation with people, and beginning to, I use the garden game as like I was speaking of, built on an analogy. The analogy is let's make a garden together. What's in a garden? Plants. Each plant is going to have a stem. It's going to have seeds. It's going to have fruit. It's going to have leaves. There's going to probably be some pests that bother us. It's going to have good soil or nothing's going to grow, and it's got to have a good atmosphere. And so that's in a nutshell what the cards are, is those eight things. Um, so plus roots, which in this context would be one's personal beliefs. And so the idea is that we begin to build those plants. And by building those plants, this almost, I don't know if childish is the right word, but playful process, we can begin discovering, well, what do you know? We have this in common. Oh, we don't have this in common, but what could we do to make it common? I am a little uncertain if I need to actually just go through and read each of these cards, because that's something. Oh, where did we? Oh, read.
So, is are there features by which one can navigate the areas where they're not common that don't necessarily result in commonality? Like, what if disagreements arise that don't come to a common head? Is there
Mhm.
means of navigating those aspects?
Right.
Because I assume it's still part of the game that the personal stays in the sphere of, of the social purview. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Um, So the way I would describe that, well, let me put it this way: the garden game is an assemblage of tools, and I'm always looking for more. The game is in development; it probably always will be because conversations are that kind of thing. They grow over time, and so I consider there to be three types of commonality. Pure commonality, mean we just 100% agree on whatever is pure. There's no contradictions, there's no disagreements. There is a defined commonality. This is something like I have a belief and you have a belief. They're different. And we're just going to work on defining what those beliefs are. So, for instance, I am a Christian. I consider myself a conservative Christian, and yet I am very interested in making sure that I am not encroaching on other people's space and telling them how to live their life. I want to be free to practice my spirituality, and I want other people to be free to practice theirs. Now, there will be objections to Christianity. There will be people who have been offended and hurt even by Christianity, and they may want to be like, well, what about this? What about that? And in that case, we are working towards a defined commonality, something that is about my belief system, not theirs, but they have things they need to say in order for us to reach a more complete commonality. And so I want to hear them and I want to see what they have to say. And I want to not so much correct them as to absorb what they are saying and see if there is space in my understanding to slot it in. Like, well, Christians are this way, aren't they? Some Christians are that way. So I just made a little dial turn on that. I went from all Christians do this to some Christians do that. That's another mechanism actually, is I call it humble language. Instead of saying this is that, I say some of this is that, or this appears to be the case. And so that is about the atmosphere card, making sure the atmosphere of the community, of the commons we are trying to build, is healthy for everybody that wants to be a part of it. So there's pure commonality, there's defined commonality, and finally there's negotiated commonality. And that has something to do like I have a friend that went to a very Islamic conservative country. And he was walking down the street, or she was walking down the street. She had like their clothes on that they say that she's supposed to wear. But she was flipping as she walked, her feet were visible, the soles of her feet. And a bunch of guys jumped out of a car, ran up to her and said, "You're in our country. You cannot expose the bottoms of your feet. That is a part of the law of our country." Now that's extreme to me. That's really hard for me to deal with. But there's something to be said for respecting a person in their community and saying, okay, let's negotiate this. I'm here for a short time. I don't want to live here because this is your space. I'm just here for a short time. I will negotiate with you and do this. But can you assure me that I am safe here? That kind of thing. There can be that kind of a conversation. That is an extreme example, but I use it because it's an extreme example. So Reed, how did that do? Was that a good response?
I think it was a good opening of the conversation.
Good.
And for myself at the moment, I am satisfied. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. I'm just going to do a self check-in so that this is, in a sense, a part of the game, the roots part, although you don't necessarily have to do this, but I'm sensing a lot of anxiety in me because this is the first presentation I've done of this project. And I'm just wanting to acknowledge that anxiety because to do so helps me be real and helps me be more at peace in myself. So, hi, I'm Matthew. I've not done this before. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to meet all you lovely people. And it's hard for me to know how prepared to be with this stuff, because if I over prepare and I take too many notes, then it's just me lecturing. But if I take minimal notes, then hopefully I can leave this thing more organic. which is what I've been trying to do. So I'm very grateful for the questions that have come because it helps me keep this as a living conversation. And I welcome more questions and comments as we proceed, which maybe I should do that. Let me open up the floor and see if there's any questions, any concerns, or if you guys just want to, let's hurry up and get on with it.
It might be that that there are elements of it that are just too difficult to explain, and maybe jumping right in and kind of as with an example or something, and like just kind of with you kind of prompting us at each turn, maybe that would be the a good way to proceed, because it just might be too hard for us to, remember all of the things, right? And
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, well, let's just do that. There is a link in the chat to a game board. Oh, I got a raised hand. Reed.
You had started a check-in process yourself. I just thought maybe see if anyone else has check-ins they want to add to that before diving into the game.
Does that resonate with anybody?
I'd like to check in. I just wanted to add that I've been following this game for some time, and I'm close with Matthew and Reed. We communicate on Polo pretty much daily. And although I don't always understand all the elements of this, I get to see both of them play it out, live it in their actual lives. And it's very enticing for me to have these tools. And I've learned so much because Matthew does a lot of parts work, if you've ever heard of it. NVC, nonviolent communication, and he works it into everything and he weaves it. So what I do sometimes, I'm going to share it in the chat. I don't know if it'll be helpful, but I also took a screenshot. Sorry, Matthew, I didn't ask your permission before I put it into my chat GPT, but I put everything into my chat GPT. So, and it's out there in the world now, isn't it? So I'm just going to put what my chat said about it. And I myself would love to take like maybe a conversation and see it in action. For a lot of people, I think, when you introduce a board game or anything, they're like, yeah, directions, but let's play and then I'll catch on as it goes, right? So I would love to maybe see that kind of work out. And I think this is awesome. So I'm gonna share what I have to share and
Yay.
be quiet now.
Thank you, Chrissy.
I'm gonna check in real quick. I've been loving Limicon. It's been great, very exciting. I'm just now getting sick, and that's making my energy a little lower than usual. So I hope I can keep up with all of you lovely people. I'm very happy to see this happen. Like, this has been a long time coming. What do I mean? It's not just the garden game. It's the conditions from which the garden game has emerged as a co-creative device that is under construction still. Because it's based off just our group getting together and just doing the game without the cards. And then Matthew studying what we do, like coming to these commonalities, these agreements, like having these personal values that are different than each other's, but still finding how to stay in the same circle of constructivity and generativity for everyone involved without breaking apart, even though we have some very different values and views about some things. So it's really salient to me to see his construction of this into something that can be handed off to other people come to fruition. And I love that. And so I look forward to this a lot. I'm happy to see everyone who showed up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for yours. I just realized the easiest way to do this might simply be for me to share my screen. So I'm going to do that. And what we will do, so we have a number of boards for the simple fact that I thought we might do a breakout session so that everybody can play one. But for now, I'm just going to start in this first most right one, and I'm going to go up to elements, and I'm going to take the yellow sticky note. I think that's yellow. My screen is not letting me see it very well. Yeah, that's yellow. And I'm going to say that the yellow coincides with the seed. Oh, how do I do this? There we go. The seed card. What sparks the beginning of the game? What fresh visions, parts, or other ideas emerge as the game continues? So the idea there is, what are we trying to see commonality about? I have 3 seeds that I will suggest, and if anybody wishes to grab another sticky note and add a seed, then we can basically vote on which seed we're going to try to nurse into a healthy plant. I'm going to say AI, good or bad. And I will do another one. Yes, there's somebody jumping in. Religion versus spirituality. I'm going to shrink my sticky notes down a little bit, I think. And I will just duplicate that. And say problem solving. Fixing the world versus fixing ourselves.
I had already put that in there. Sorry.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right. It's as if we know each other and are cribbing off the same notes.
They're internal notes, though.
True.
I don't have access to what you got going on over there. Some experience.
Okay. The next part of the game would actually be to do some leaves, which are the blue sticky notes.
Did you want to? Sorry to interrupt. Did you want to open that question to others to add seeds, or?
I thought I had. I will so now. If anybody else wants to add some sticky notes, please do. And if you need any instruction on how to do that, I can do that as well. I can also just add it for you if you would like. Okay. Well, so we can do the voting a couple of different ways. If we were playing it in real life, we would each have cards that we could play on top of which one we're basically voting for. What we can do instead is we can do a show of hands in the chat or in our chat windows. Since I'm only saying that because I'm not seeing a whole lot of activity on the canvas, so I don't know how many people are using it. But are any of these topics interesting to anybody? Is basically the question. Do I hear save the world or save ourselves or both? Is there any?
I think they're all good topics.
Yeah, they are. That makes it difficult, doesn't it?
I'm going to vote for save the world or save yourself.
Okay.
If anyone else has votes.
Martel has something to say.
I'll vote for the same, the save the world versus self,
Me too.
Nice.
or both.
Okay. Votes going once. Votes going twice. All right, we will just go with that. Now, the way the game works is these just become part of our soil. Anything that we end up removing from the game is not lost. Nothing is lost in the garden game. It just gets recycled. These are, as you said, these are things everybody's liking. Nobody said, hey, I do not like that topic. I don't want to have anything to do with it, which you could have. That was a move we could have played because that's what the pests card is about. So for now, those are present. They just haven't bloomed yet. Now, the next step would be our green cards, which does not mean we are going to another country. Instead, haha, that was a bad joke.
I have all of the Post-its beneath the soil. If you just look down a little bit, they're already on the board, so you can grab them. I'll move them up for you to see.
So the idea with the stems, which is what the green cards are. Okay, you're giving them notes to play with. Gotcha. Well, that's interesting. I'm curious. So I'm not super familiar with using Canva with other people, and my cards have my name on them. Reed, I don't see that yours does, however. So I'm curious if that is just for the owner of the canvas or what?
Might be. Because I'm
Okay.
I'm in as a guest. I don't have a title. I don't think.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just ignore that then. I was thinking I'd get to see who was saying what, but that's okay. You guys can speak anytime you want. Please just say, raise your hand or yeah, let's do that. Let's use the raise your hand function, which will be there's a little emote icon in case you don't know. And if you click on that, it'll give you a bunch of emojis. And at the far right, there's a raise hand one. You can also press H on your keyboard. So the stems are these are aspects of this. These are what is true for you about this. This is anything that's alive in you about this topic. So I could say something like, you cannot fix yourself completely before beginning to fix the world. I hate my typing. But because there is a dialogue between them.
So Matthew,
Yes.
because of a lot of people are either in their cars or stuff and they can't access Canva, I'm on my computer. I could go into Canva or have you do it too. But at this point, would you want to hear a green stem from me?
Please.
Right. So your green stem is the spark for you is you cannot fix yourself completely before beginning to fix the world because there's a dialogue between them. And what would normally come up for me is fixing the world is very egocentric. Stick to fixing yourself, and then your part and your passion will intrinsically or organically fix the world, right? So that's my viewpoint on this particular topic. Stay in your lane, work on yourself, and then your gift to the world becomes present without forcing. I know I said two different things, but I think you understand what I'm getting at. So I would say if anyone else has
Wonderful.
a STEM, you could, with this topic, if anyone else can add a green, you don't have to add it. You can just take yourself off mute maybe and let us know another STEM that we can put into this area.
Those two perspectives seem pretty synergistic, it's like those those need to happen simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Love that. So that
Rise
would
and
be-
shine.
I would venture to say that you are your gift to the world.
You are your gift to the
You-
world. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the more you work on yourself, the better the gift.
Let's see here. Can I? Okay, I'm going to pause for a minute and see, how shall I say this? Ooh, nothing is broken at all. The only option is to make the art. That's a good one. Thank you. All right. So we have 3 stems right now. We can see these as separate things that are in tension with each other, things that can all be true even though they are very different perspectives. Or, thank you, appreciate that. Or we can begin to see how these create a single stem. It all depends on that which we, how do I say this? How fully we all agree on these statements. So if all of this is all common all day long, nobody has any pests involved, then this is a completely common stem for all of us. It's one big plant that we're building here. Does that make sense? I should state something more actionable. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so you're saying if we have like, if we say these all kind of fit together, then they're one plant. But if we say, well, this is really kind of a separate topic, then it would be a different plant and we'd move the stem somewhere else.
Correct. Correct. And so what I would, again, normally do is we would play our blue cards and we would basically vote, hey, I agree with this one. You could play your red card and say, I disagree with that one. Let's see here. So we have, let me see a set of hands for those who can interact with the game and those who, versus those who would just want to listen. That way I know who I'm interacting with and who is watching. So we've got Reed, Daryl, Ardell, and
Yeah.
Christy have raised their hands, and Cass has raised her hand. Is that right? No, that was Christy. Sorry. Okay. So we have 4 players. Good to know. All right. Then in that case, does everybody, Ardell, Daryl, Einra, Chrissy, can you all access the Canva? Do you all have that open?
I don't. Can you share the link again?
Sure.
Or maybe I can scroll back. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, it's still up there.
And it's reshared at the bottom.
Great. I didn't see it up top because I joined late.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
Yeah, something for future, Matthew, is that if someone joins late, anything you put in the vibe circle before they got here won't be there.
Okay. I was
It
wondering.
only saves what's present for them while they're
Okay.
in the circle.
Okay. All right. Good to know. All right. So in that case, so we're all 4 in here. What would be handy at this point? Oh, did I hear?
You saw a hand. There's sound. I don't know if you're hearing something. I'm hearing a lot
Yeah,
of
I
stuff.
thought I was
too.
hearing somebody.
But I'm curious. Okay, so I don't know if I'm taking this off the rails. You let me know. I am just trying to jump in and get my fingers in the soil. So we have three things here that seem very similar. And one over here that's not very similar. So my perspective is that these are, oops, that should be locked. That these three are already kind of in consilience. And so I guess I would wonder if the other individuals here would agree with that. And is that how we get those into one stem? Is if we all like, oh, those are consilient. But this other one, that there's no problem whatsoever, isn't consilient. So therefore, it's a separate stem. Is that appropriate?
I could kind of see it go either way, you know?
So at this point, I'll go ahead and point out one of our cards, the root card. I always forget how to scroll around on this. Here we go. The root card says personal beliefs. What are your personal beliefs on the selected topic? Disagreeableness can actually help during this step. And the reason I bring that up is because sometimes the disagreeableness can actually further the conversation. And so I want to invite people to be like, you know, I can see it going this way, but I'm going to push back and say, what if we did it this way? That is an option. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. But what I was going to say is that the next step would be taking our blue sticky notes. I'm just going to say, well, I just made a bunch of, actually, darn it, I didn't do this right. I'm going to shrink this one down so we can have a little more space. And I'm going to duplicate it. It's just to the side of our game board. If you guys want to put your names on these and vote, and whatever detail it is about why you're voting. Like I'm going to say, I'm going to say we have 2 different plants going on here, which is absolutely fine in the garden game. We can have 2 plants going at the same time. So I will say, nothing is broken is separate plant from the other 3. That's all I got to do. Just something simple like that.
That looks good. I think, you know, now that I'm looking back down at the yellow sticky note, it does seem like save the world is separate from nothing is broken.
So is that an agreement with that sticky note then?
Yeah, it's an agreement with the idea that nothing is broken is a different stem, a different plant.
I'm going to just add your name to that sticky note then. Reed, Chrissy, Daryl, what about you all?
I'm gonna disagree here and say
Yay.
it goes with it that nothing
Nice.
is broken, and it all just kind of works in the way it leads you to acceptance in my book, like this acceptance of what we have, and to make art is so healing. So to me, it's like accept it, right? Nothing's broken. We're not here to fix the world, but also make your art, do your thing, and that it. So I feel like it could work. I'm gonna go with.
I love it.
This puts me in a tough spot. I made this stem with the intention of kind of simulating disagreement, like you had mentioned, to provide that tension. I was like, well, how do I approach this in a way that's not being said by other people? But I mean it, but I also mean the other things that are there. Like I believe it all, really. like this all works really well together. Save yourself, save the world. It's not there to be saved. If that's your art, is to save the things, then go forward and do your art. By all means, find sovereignty in that. But one game for I guess I'm most game for running as far of a complete game as we can with the time. So I'm going to agree with Ardell in that these can all, well, Chrissy agreed as well to that extent, like they can work together. So I guess that sounds like an agreement that we have one stem.
The sticky note I wrote is that that the nothing is broken stem is a separate plant. So
Okay.
Chrissy was disagreeing with me.
Okay, so I'm agreeing with Chrissy and disagreeing with Ardell. I do think they're the same plant.
Okay.
I could, like I said at first, I could see it going either way, so I don't disagree. Let's just let them be parallel for now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll see how the game synthesizes that, right?
And someone
Right.
is writing another post-it. We
I
have
see that.
one coming in. DD. Daryl.
Daryl.
Daryl, being
Nice.
in a relationship with yourself and with the world is an ongoing emergent process that plays off each party. I really like Limicon, people. This is really fun.
Thank you.
There's just it was funny right before the meeting, me and Einra were here chatting, and I was like, well, we're through brainstorming this versus that. I'm like, of course I don't really mean versus, because part of our whole philosophy is that there is no versus, everything always works together. But at the same time, that's not how everybody thinks, and that's part of why the garden game exists, so that you can have these conversations with people. All right.
Can I bring up a seed, a concern?
Oh, a pest?
Right. Oh, yeah, you're right. It's a pest. Yeah, while I think that with the level of maturity that we have as adults who have kind of been in conversation with these topics for a while, like this all makes sense. My concern is that while true, it's going to look very untrue to say Gen Z. I have like nieces and nephews and just young people that I'm around, that I'm seeing them just so so distraught. Like if we're telling them, everything's really okay, we're just going through this evolution and this is the this is how it is, and get all zen about it, that's going to kind of seem like apathy, and they kind of need something more, to hold on to, some hope. I mean, we've got this trend of suicide that is really concerning.
Yeah. Okay. This is where the game gets a little complicated. We don't have someone like that here to talk with, so we will have to speculate. But what the game would be interested in doing is trying to understand that person's point of view. I don't know how well we'll be able to do that right now, but if anybody wants to take a shot at it, that would be the next step once a pest is in play. Reed.
My sense of these Gen Zers, because I am attending university, so I get to be around them quite a bit, and hear their concerns and their fears and their passions, is that in this era, in an almost unprecedented way, everyone has a hand in the game, and they can see it. They can see how they can be participatory to the degree that it's available, and they see these major contentious issues, and they see how that their activities will have an impact upon the outcome. And so in that, they have those they care about, then they have those who they don't know. And the ones that they don't know are often making the decisions that they're looking at negatively. And so they're caught in this culture war paradigm where they're like, oh, I need to show up, otherwise it's going to go badly. And so if I don't show up, then the people I care about are going to lose the war. And so they're in this thing of like win or lose, but in the sense that's it's pretty real for them when it comes
Yeah.
to the way legislature is playing out. Like it's very real for them, say, just on this Department of Education level. A lot of people might lose funding to go to school who aren't parent funded, so that's like a real skin in the game kind of scenario. And for them to be zen about it is a wise action, but that's not what they teach them in university. They teach them,
Right.
well, show the fuck up, pardon my language, at the front line and represent yourself. And so in that, there are these social forces that are creating imperatives for them to do so, which isn't a wrong thing to do. It's like you do got to show up and represent yourself. Even in my STEM of, well, the only option is to make the art. What's your art? Show up and do it, and rock it, own it. And so I guess that would be my perspective on those individuals for the most part, is they see their sovereignty. They're not really well socialized with people who disagree with them a lot. And so they have this great big other, the shadowed other inside of them to go to war with, and thus they do.
I think that's well said. And they they don't see any possibility of kind of acknowledging and working with like who they see as the opposition.
Yeah.
And nor do they see the option of exiting that game A.
Yes.
It's like
yes.
it's like the
Very good. Oh,
It's Chrissy.
I heard. It's Chrissy. Sorry, I didn't see it.
Oh, no, it's fine. I love this conversation because I was at some point, very depressed and into all my DEI work and all the TikToks, right? We can think about where they're getting their information from, which is most likely micro learning and things that say, if you're not speaking out against genocide, you're part of the problem. What would you have done during World War II? So their perspective is like, if I'm not fighting against this right now, I'm the shittiest person. And, or if I'm not fighting against what's going on in legislature, not, and I was with them. I was there until I realized, well, we know what I realized, right? It's an internal job, and then the internal can reflect the external. If you have anger in yourself all the time, your world is going to reflect anger. But we can't teach that 1% of spirituality for people all the time unless they're ready to learn that. So I have a solution, which is seeing them. I have a lot of Gen Z friends. We know I tend to date younger too, right? So what I do is I see them, I ask their pronouns, whatever's important to them, I ask about it. I try to remember it. I try to let them know how important they are to me. And I might not always get it right, but it's so important for me to see and understand them because I am from a different generation. Whatever it is, different. We're all from different perspectives. So I kind of model by me being open-minded to them, where they can hopefully be open-minded to other things and not catastrophize. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Thank you, Chrissy. So I went ahead and added a root, which is personal view. I was there, and so I considered that a root because it's a part of your personal story. Roots are important. Plant's not going to survive without roots. So it's really important to be able to acknowledge the personal views that are influencing the common game that we're playing. I was just trying to think of how I could likewise share, and I can't think of anything, so I guess I won't worry about it right now. Okay, so I'm going to. So many aspects of the game are invented to deal with a less than stellar crew such as we have here, such as the atmosphere. So we haven't even talked about the atmosphere card because you all are such beautiful people, and we don't need to do we haven't needed to do NVC. I've hit it on the humble language, but yeah. So let's see here. We are a little, I'm going to say a little, maybe stuck is the right word, because we have 3 on this right side, we have 1 on this left. Speaking of the, let's see here. Okay, there we go. Oh,
I just want to offer
yes.
an observation, or at least a thought, not so much to go on the board, but thinking about this massive divisions in the world, and particularly when it comes to the younger generations who don't have a similar worldview that we find here. This could be, well, an excellent way to introduce the option to them, to start getting into conversation and not fighting. But it might also be a great to start with less, with things that aren't existential crises.
Right.
To introduce this in such a scenario where it's like everyday crises. Because once you get up to the existential level, there's this felt sense of life and death associated with it. And in that, it might be a lot harder to make it accessible to them. Because I feel that this game is less for people like us, like we could play this. It's more for those who aren't already exercising these tools to have an avenue towards their exercising. And to have made small and graspable terms and concepts, these systems like NVC. So they don't need to learn, you don't need to read a whole book. They get a deck of cards, they get some basic tools that work together in such a way that delivers them the atmosphere of NVC. So that's my takeaway so far. I could have waited till the end, but I wanted to say it. I was on the mind. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So I guess I'm going to try to prompt a question here. Okay, let's do this. Let's jump to the fruit. How would you all describe the fruit of this conversation so far? What kind of lessons have we learned? What kind of progress have we made that kind of compresses the lessons learned into something that you could take to somebody and share?
I guess I shared my fruit prematurely. That was my fruit.
Okay.
When in good company, it's easy to agree. However, when there's not good company, existential crises might be insurmountable mountains. Build small, go large. Put all your tools in a presentable box and hopefully they will receive it. Or they will receive it in their own way. That's my fruit.
Begin with less existential topics to build rapport is perhaps a good way of saying that.
I want to bring up a pest.
Okay.
I again have a concern that I feel that the world does seem to be in existential crisis to the younger generations. And so trying to focus on resolving smaller issues like how's your math class going is maybe going to seem less helpful overall. I'm just thinking back to my own kind of existential crisis as a younger person, and it seemed like once I kind of resolved some of that, everything was easier and everything seemed workable, while without having a resolution, like there just wasn't, everything seemed, the small things just seemed annoying and like useless.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm raising my hand. I'd like to respond to that.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
Were you finished speaking, Ardell?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think it also can be like Reed said, like you're going to lose your funding because of the legislation, and they're worried about it, right? That's taking something that probably seems catastrophic to them, but it's also not like fighting against the administration or in any particular country right now, right? I mean, we understand there's undertones of what's going on here. Everything seems like so upside down, and we have to protect our energy a lot of the times, and they don't necessarily have that force field to protect their energy. So I think by meeting them where they're at with maybe not the biggest picture, but a part, sorry, there's people around, I'm at a coffee shop, the part of it that where they're affected, right? So all the things in the world, everything seems to be crumbling, but the one that's going to affect them the most is they're going to lose their funding. So maybe taking that type of problem that they're really, really perseverating about and putting it into the garden game, like I think just like on a smaller level, but also not diminishing the gravity of it for them, because it's could be real for all of us at any time, and meeting them where they're at and really giving a heartfelt understanding and welcoming them into this and saying, hey, we're just going to help you process some of these feelings. For me, seeing this played out, I've been hearing about this game for a long time, and what everyone here might not know is that you're part of like a beta, like an experiment. It doesn't matter if we don't get to the end of the game. There is no end of the game. This is the furthest I've ever seen it, and we're able to understand the terms and what we're building here. So having known Matthew and watching it evolve, it's very cool that we're all here co-creating this with him, because I know him, and I know it'll make it so much better for him, and it's exciting. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Speaking of which, I truly appreciate everyone's time for participating with us. Okay, so would you mind framing, Chrissy, that again? You were speaking of, my brain was going in two different directions while you were speaking, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I can sum it up. It was like for me, the synthesis was Reed said, start a little less investment, right? A little less in catastrophic. What is it? Existential, the whole big picture. And Ardell was saying, well, the big picture is what's most present for them. They're not going to be like, oh, my math class, right? So it's taking the big picture and the how they're affected is more of a smaller, manageable piece. So it's still part of the bigger existential crisis, but how they're going to get affected. Then we bring that problem that's very present for them into this garden game and help them work through it. In effect, hitting both sides of the coin.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
there's a way to do it. Pick a smaller thing from the existential crisis that
Okay.
directly. Does that make sense?
I think I hear you. I wrote the synthesis is basically play the game.
Yeah.
Bring them in to a game so that they can process those big feelings and those big needs that they have to bring some NVC in there. I mean, certainly if I was working with somebody like that, I would spend a lot of time just building the atmosphere with them, just making sure that they they feel heard, and that they know that I understand that their needs are not being met. And I would try to work with them to meet what needs I can locally and in that moment. So I think a lot of this, maybe the synthesis I will throw out there, is that, and I'm already starting to see ways I need to tweak my card set in order to have more than a vertical stem. Like I thought I'd be able to like tilt these. Oh, you can tilt the cards. Okay, there's the tilt card thing. Well, it's right there. Okay. Because I was envisioning, okay, we can branch and stuff, but most of the times I had played this game, it was just in my own head. So anyway, so I was going to say that these are case by case issues much of the time, because both of these can be utterly true, completely true things that maybe one person really has to deal with with the big picture. Another person just needs to deal with some smaller stuff first, especially if it's working with you to build commonality, to build camaraderie, to build that community with them, so that larger issues can then be dealt with. All right, and I see some more sticky notes emerging.
Who is the giant Weta?
I think that's Chrissy.
Oh, is it? Okay. I thought so. There's
Oh no, it's not.
No.
this person right here. Who's that?
Yeah, that's Ardell. I am
I already know.
trying to figure out how to make it smaller.
I can't either.
There's a little grabby at the corner that you can.
No.
I've been grabbing the corner, but I'm only using my the finger pad, so it's not as,
My own, I haven't been able to make smaller than what they're at. Like this one over here, this blue one that you can't see. I'll move it so you can see it. Here we go. I can make it bigger, but I can't make it smaller than what
Huh.
it's at.
So the dot on the corner you can't adjust? That's strange.
Oh, of course you can. Maybe it's because I'm not signed in. Maybe the thing is with me and Ardell that we are anonymous animals with our names, and
Oh, okay.
size it past a certain point.
Strange. Okay. Weird. Who knew? Weird Canva things. Well, the wonderful thing about Canva whiteboards is we're getting practically the same service you would get from Miro or Lucidchart only it's free to everybody. So I'll just give them that free plug.
Yeah, I didn't know Canva had this mirror situation.
Right.
I was like, that's pretty cool. I've been enjoying it. I've been learning.
Okay, so I'm going to add another fruit, which is it seems to me, humble language right there, that the synthesis of these various positions, all these stems, is the case by case relationship building that we can engage in. And when you do that, you're actually fulfilling all the stems. Whether it's nothing is broken, hey, we can, yeah, nothing is broken, we can have a relationship. World may be burning, let's build a relationship. Let me be a gift to you in this moment. Let's not get too egocentric. Let's change ourselves through relationship. And what do you know? When we do that, we are changing the world because we are a part of the world.
Yeah. Let me know if this is I have a thought. I don't know what kind of card it would be.
Okay.
It relates to this, what you just put out there as a fruit, to Ardell's note and question to Chrissy, and to Chrissy's encapsulation of the idea of de-elevating the canopy of existential crisis. Gen Z is not a category. Like they're not a ubiquitous category. They're not all the same person, and they're not all going to interact in the same context and require the same, say, coddling or not coddling. And so you said this case by case, like that in that, to how to potentially make this accessible to them. I think the first step would be to realize, well, we're not going to make it accessible to all of them. And that's not a divisive outcome. That's just like a human outcome, because we're all very different people that have broad overlaps and fit into these general categories with fuzzy edges. And so in that, I think that it's important to recognize that this game can be used from the most minute and potentially trivial of problems or disagreements, all the way on up to the most massive, cosmic, everything is gonna either live forever or die now sort of scenarios, and that to include that into the packaging. Be like, really, this is not trying to convince you of anything. This is merely a tool for you to navigate conversation with the people you're in the room with, and be aware you're in the room with everyone on this planet at some sort of spooky distance. So I don't know. It's just my thought. In that problem, I see a fracturing of that problem just into a variety of opportunities.
Yeah, right on.
The people who are really radicalized are probably not going to play this game.
Right. Yeah. I would call that a fruit. That sounds like a conclusion. Chrissy.
I just wanted to say how excited I am that we got to an artifact. Like that was
Yay!
huge for me. We got to a fruit, and I went back to the key that I had made in ChatGPT. I'm like, okay, and I looked at red. Okay, we're at red, and we're at fruit, and that's so cool. And I just appreciate being able to take this information, and for a first run of this in a group like this, that was really cool. We have an artifact.
Victor would be so proud.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And just so you know, the long-term goal for this project, this game, is to have cards. Like I have all these little white cards I use. These are dry erase cards that I use to develop my card games with. And but for this particular game, the hope is to have index cards and something to hold them in. And the goal would be that every time you play a game, you make fruit, and the fruit goes in the index. And the index can almost work like something like a Zettelkasten does, if you know what that is. Basically, a way of indexing ideas. And if you are not done working on that fruit, if that fruit sparks you in a way, that fruit can become the seed for the next game. Because the idea is that all those stems are just parts of a bigger whole. The fruit is the collapsing down of all the information we've been working with into a form that we can carry along to the next meeting or to the next game or whatever it is. We are at 5:15. The event was scheduled to run for 90 minutes. So we have 15 minutes left. For anybody who wants to discuss the game, I would love feedback. Anything you got for me, I'd love to hear.
Well, I'm going to echo Chrissy's feedback. Very happy we made it to the top of a plant. And in a sense, it was kind of simulative, which was fine because this was just an exercise, an introduction. I would like to see this pursued with an actual disagreement between people who genuinely disagree about something, and see how far they take it before if they break or if they don't. Like I like to see it in real tension. I think that'd be useful. Other than that, I love it, and I would play it again and take it further, make a whole garden. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, basically the rest.
Your
You know,
your mic got bad.
my bike got bad. Okay. Am I better?
Mhm.
Can you hear me now? Testing,
Yeah.
testing.
Yes.
Okay. Strange. Okay. Well, whatever that was. I think I had a little bit of music going in the background that I just turned on, so that must have caused a
I
problem.
saw Joyce leave some feedback in a message, but I can't find it anymore. It was
Okay.
there. She said something about thank you and commonality, but it's not in the circle anymore.
I'm going to tune into this on my phone soon, as I will be on the bus. Love IFS and nonviolent communication. Maybe that.
No, there was one just like
There was
20.
something else.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Well, shoot.
shoots
Sorry to
indeed.
see that disappeared.
Mhm.
And Ardale said, thanks, all gotta run. Okay. Well, as I was saying, that's the presentation, that's the game. I would be absolutely open for running to a side room somewhere. I know there's another event happening at, I think there was another event happening
12
today.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, in 12 minutes. So I would be open for running to another room and trying this again if anybody was interested. If not, I totally understand that as well. And I just want to say thank you all for your time and participation.
I will be attending the next event. For anyone who can hear, this game will be featured here on Vibe Cafe, though, indefinitely into the future as an event and an ongoing practice under development, and will be ongoing through test past Limicon. I guess note to self: let's bring some follow-up links for people to click on and go look into you further at their own leisure.
Yeah, I think the event had a couple of links to my Substack, so there is that option.
I
All
would
right.
also like, sorry. go ahead.
Hmm.
I would also add that this could be another thing that, like another event, the same exact thing, like copy and paste and see,
True.
because now
Yeah.
that it's constructed and it can just get, as you build flow, maybe in a week, or if you have the time, of course.
Right.
But I feel real momentum with it, and it was very, very cool to see it played out in this way. And we know that everyone's not always going to have access to the Canva, and there might be, and that happens in everything that I do that involves mirroring, right? There's half the people who can't sign in from their phone. There's half the people who are just like, I'm neurodivergent, and you're just moving too fast, right? Which is all of us most of the time. So I think considering all of the technicality of the things, it went really well. And to
Good.
have
I
more
appreciate that.
momentum surrounding it would be fun to try it out again.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with like something like you pick something controversial. We are very much aligned in this Limicon. We're very aligned with where we're at. And it's hard for us to even pretend to be closed-minded.
That's a good point.
Well, we can't, it's hard to get someone into this space so I don't even want to make people stereotype right now, right?
Right.
But it's hard to get people who like just that artifact. It's not going to be accessible for everyone for obvious reasons, but that's not obvious to everybody. This is wild. It does evoke a lot of sparks, this type of guided conversation.
Yeah. I'm also noticing that the note cards, it's sometimes hard to distinguish the colors they are. So I might have to use a different method than note cards. And as Reed was doing, set up a stack on the side that people can just grab.
That's helpful for sure.
Yeah. And then I can set them up in a standard size, text font size and that kind of thing. Everything. We won't be messing with sizes as
Yeah.
we need to do that. Heck, for that matter, I could use circle.
Oh, Pros.
Pros.
Cirque du Soleil.